"Is it really so, Miss Murray, and does your mamma know it, and yet wish you to marry him?" "To be sure she does. She knows more against him than I do, I believe. She keeps it from me lest I should be discouraged, not knowing how little I care about such things. For it's no great matter, really. He'll be all right when he's married, as mamma says, and reformed rakes make the best husbands, everybody knows. I only wish he were not so ugly. That's all I think about, but then there's no choice here in the country, and papa will not let us go to London." "But I should think Mr. Hatfield would be far better." "And so he would, if he were the Lord of Ashby Park, there's not a doubt of it. But the fact is I must have Ashby Park, whoever shares it with me." "But Mr. Hatfield thinks you like him all this time. You don't consider how bitterly he will be disappointed when he finds himself mistaken." "No, indeed. It will be a proper punishment for his presumption, for ever daring to think I could like him. I should enjoy nothing so much as lifting the veil from his eyes." "The sooner you do it the better, then." "No, I tell you, I like to amuse myself with him. Besides, he doesn't really think I like him. I take good care of that. You don't know how cleverly I manage. He may presume to think he can induce me to like him, for which I shall punish him as he deserves." "Well, mind you don't give too much reason for such presumption, that's all," replied I. But all my exhortations were in vain. They only made her somewhat more solicitous to disguise her wishes and her thoughts from me. She talked no more to me about the rector, but I could see that her mind, if not her heart, was fixed upon him still, and that she was intent upon obtaining another interview. For though, in compliance with her mother's request, I was now constituted the companion of her rambles for a time, she still persisted in wandering in the fields and lanes that lay in the nearest proximity to the road, and whether she talked to me or read the book she carried in her hand, she kept continually pausing to look round her, or gaze up the road to see if any one was coming, and if a horseman trotted by, I could tell by her unqualified abuse of the poor equestrian, whoever he might be, that she hated him because he was not Mr. Hatfield. Surely, thought I, she is not so indifferent to him as she believes herself to be, or would have others to believe her, and her mother's anxiety is not so wholly causeless as she affirms. 3 days passed away, and he did not make his appearance. On the afternoon of the 4th, as we were walking beside the park palings in the memorable field, each furnished with a book, for I always took care to provide myself with something to be doing when she did not require me to talk, she suddenly interrupted my studies by exclaiming, "Oh, Miss Grey, do be so kind as to go and see Mark Wood, and take his wife £1/crown from me. I should have given or sent it a week ago, but quite forgot. There," said she, throwing me her purse and speaking very fast. "Never mind getting it out now, but take the purse and give them what you like. I would go with you, but I want to finish this volume. I'll come and meet you when I've done it. Be quick, will you? And, oh wait, hadn't you better read to him a bit? Run to the house and get some sort of a good book. Anything will do." I did as I was desired, but, suspecting something from her hurried manner and the suddenness of the request, I just glanced back before I quitted the field, and there was Mr. Hatfield about to enter at the gate below. By sending me to the house for a book, she had just prevented my meeting him on the road. Never mind, thought I, there'll be no great harm done. Poor Mark will be glad of the £1/crown, and perhaps of the good book too, and if the rector does steal Miss Rosalie's heart, it will only humble her pride a little, and if they do get married at last, it will only save her from a worse fate, and she will be quite a good enough partner for him, and he for her. Mark Wood was the consumptive labourer whom I mentioned before. He was now rapidly wearing away. Miss Murray, by her liberality, obtained literally the blessing of him that was ready to perish, for though the £1/crown could be of very little service to him, he was glad of it for the sake of his wife and children, so soon to be widowed and fatherless. After I had sat a few minutes and read a little for the comfort and edification of himself and his afflicted wife, I left them, but I had not proceeded 50 yards before I encountered Mr. Weston, apparently on his way to the same abode. He greeted me in his usual quiet, unaffected way, stopped to inquire about the condition of the sick man and his family, and with a sort of unconscious brotherly disregard to ceremony, took from my hand the book out of which I had been reading, turned over its pages, made a few brief but very sensible remarks, and restored it, then told me about some poor sufferer he had just been visiting, talked a little about Nancy Brown, made a few observations upon my little rough friend the terrier that was frisking at his feet, and finally upon the beauty of the weather, and departed. I have omitted to give a detail of his words, from a notion that they would not interest the reader as they did me, and not because I have forgotten them. No, I remember them well, for I thought them over and over again in the course of that day, and many succeeding ones. I know not how often, and recalled every intonation of his deep, clear voice, every flash of his quick brown eye, and every gleam of his pleasant but too transient smile. Such a confession will look very absurd, I fear, but no matter. I have written it, and they that read it will not know the writer. While I was walking along, happy within and pleased with all around, Miss Murray came hastening to meet me, her buoyant step, flushed cheek, and radiant smiles, showing that she too was happy in her own way. Running up to me, she put her arm through mine, and without waiting to recover breath, began, "Now, Miss Grey, think yourself highly honoured, for I'm come to tell you my news before I've breathed a word of it to anyone else." "Well, what is it?" "Oh, such news! In the first place, you must know that Mr. Hatfield came upon me just after you were gone. I was in such a way for fear papa or mamma should see him, but you know I couldn't call you back again, and so— oh dear, I can't tell you all about it now, for there's Matilda I see in the park, and I must go and open my budget to her. But however, Hatfield was most uncommonly audacious, unspeakably complimentary, and unprecedentedly tender. Tried to be so, at least. He didn't succeed very well in that, because it's not his vein. I'll tell you all he said another time." "But what did you say? I'm more interested in that." "I'll tell you that too, at some future period. I happened to be in a very good humour just then, but though I was complacent and gracious enough, I took care not to compromise myself in any possible way. But however, the conceited wretch chose to interpret my amiability of temper his own way, and at length presumed upon my indulgence so far. What do you think? He actually made me an offer." "And you—" I proudly drew myself up, and with the greatest coolness expressed my astonishment at such an occurrence, and hoped he had seen nothing in my conduct to justify his expectations. You should have seen how his countenance fell. He went perfectly white in the face. I assured him that I esteemed him and all that, but could not possibly accede to his proposals, and if I did, papa and mamma could never be brought to give their consent. "But if they could," said he, "would yours be wanting?" "Certainly, Mr. Hatfield," I replied, with a cool decision which quelled all hope at once. Oh, if you had seen how dreadfully mortified he was, how crushed to the earth by his disappointment! Really, I almost pitied him myself. One more desperate attempt, however, he made. After a silence of considerable duration, during which he struggled to be calm and I to be grave, for I felt a strong propensity to laugh, which would have ruined all, he said, with the ghost of a smile, "But tell me plainly, Miss Murray, if I had the wealth of Sir Hugh Meltham, or the prospects of his eldest son, would you still refuse me? Answer me truly, upon your honour." "Certainly," said I, "that would make no difference whatever." It was a great lie, but he looked so confident in his own attractions still, that I determined not to leave him one stone upon another. He looked me full in the face, but I kept my countenance so well that he could not imagine I was saying anything more than the actual truth.